I want to start off by saying that this is not a gear channel. Not in the sense that you're going to find your megapixels and pixel pitch and all of that. While I think those things are important, they don't shape the aesthetics of the image. And there are many other things that do. I got one of the most unloved cameras out there. And if I had a penny every time I did that, I would have maybe 6 pennies. But I want to present to you the most unloved camera by the internet. This is a Nikon ZF. Now, Nikon has recently rolled out what's called a film grain update, and they've been very slow on the pickup for their grain and film emulations. Regardless of what you think about film emulations, I have had a pleasure to test such film emulations, and I have some thoughts. But of course, I'm gonna put on some photos that I took on my recent trip that I took to Belgrade to better illustrate how grain feels and is it really close to film grain, the one you see inside a film camera. Newsflash, it isn't, and it depends on the settings that you choose. I've also had a film photographer with me who took some of the film photos that I'm gonna present here in this video. And here, you'll see some photos. Now, the thing about film emulation inside of this camera is you have to really be careful because there's a certain threshold at which it really goes overboard and your photos just become a less quality photos. If you zoom out really well into some of the photos, you can see that there's a real loss of detail. And it's not the same as if you filmed with an analog camera. Analog grain actually preserves structure of the image a lot better. So I was being sparing with it. You know, even on my little screen here, I could zoom in and see that probably a setting of 4 or 5, like the maximum setting, is way too much, and it's definitely not nowhere near as realistic as film grain would be, because you know most of us shoot portrait 400, maybe 200 ISO films, and staying in the neighborhood of maybe 50%, like 35-20% grain is actually, I think 20% grain is all the way there. But I wanted to talk about why do people hate Nikon ZF, because there's really no defined answer why. You know, in all intents and purposes, I bought the ZF because I already have a Nikon F3, and for me, it's a very familiar kind of body. I've always wanted an F3 camera in kind of like a digital form, and so it really felt like home to me to own a ZF, and it fits into my hand. I had a Fuji X-T5 before, and you know I have a pretty big hand, and it really felt small in it. So and overall, the ZF feels like a better built camera. You know, it features metal, and the dials feel a lot more solid, less plasticky. You know, just an overall better built camera. And as far as image quality goes, I would say that definitely video qualities, video capabilities of the ZF, you know, for whatever they are better than on those on the Fuji. You know, full frame sensor captures more light, yada yada yada. I would still not, of course, film anything professional with the ZF, but still, it's a nice camera to have in like those handy situations when you want to capture really nice looking crisp footage. And crispness is what I describe it as, because this sensor is very, very sharp. And recording some close-ups tests on this lens, which is a 35mm Nikon lens, I really felt like it was very, very sharp. Like it needed like a lot of Sony cameras, it needed some softening of the image for it to appear more cinematic and less harsh on the highlights. But the dynamic range in this camera is pretty good. Again, talking about the video, I've shot a little segment here that's a little bit challenging because we have some shadows and the highlights. So you're gonna see the segment that I filmed and grained with the use of dehancer. You're gonna see a version without the edits and the version with the editing. And so overall, I just wanted to talk about my experience of film grain with this camera. You know, it's something I would use. It's something I would use maybe at the minimum setting, but I would not go all out with it. It's just not as refined as film grain on the Fuji, and it's not the end of the world. You know, I enjoy importing my images and messing with them and editing them. So I'm not that uh, dedicated to just the best JPEGs out there. But of course, you know, the JPEGs could be better. But again, we have those amazing tools. We have apps and iPhones and iPads, and we could just like throw our images and edit them on the fly. And it's all about the framing. It's all about mm, how you light, how you frame, how you position your subjects in the frame, and it's less about the texture of the image. But of course, it is about the texture of the image. So I think that's why Nikon, you know, kind of got a lot of flack for not making their film grain as refined, because they're essentially targeting the audience of the Fuji. You know, anyone who ever wanted a full frame Fuji, that's pretty much their best option for full frame Fuji. And if they'd only dialed this film grain emulation to like it being perfect and not destroying your image, it would have been amazing. So I'm curious what you guys think. I've included links to my photos, my Instagram, and some photos posted here. And just want to know your thoughts. Are you photographing with the ZF? Do you have a Fuji camera? What are your thoughts on the ZF or the way Nikon handled the release? I think it's getting better. Progressively they're getting there, and I was very excited to get this update and realize like, well, maybe they finally got it. They finally got the ZF right. You know, because it's a really solid camera. It's a really good camera. It feels good in the hand. It feels like a tank. It feels in every way like an F3 feels when you're shooting analog photos. So if it only did this with the image, it would have been perfect. So thank you very much. Like and subscribe and comment, and I'll see you in the next one. Thank you. Bye.